say you don't know where you go, so come. The wind in your hair, birds keep flying away, away, away. Ooh, lost in your world. Ooh, memories of home. Ooh, lost in your world. Ooh, looking for home. You can stay in this burning land with tears in your hand. Keep sailing away, away, away. Ooh, lost in your world. Ooh, memories of home. Ooh, lost in your world.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. My name's Rotimi Sariki if you're new here, and I create really awesome Unreal Engine content for architecture visualization. But in today's video, I am going to be going through a series of events where I transform this tent design, this camping tent design, into something really fantastic that will be rendered in a sequence using UE5. This project was originally created in UE4, and back then Unreal Engine was a bit tricky to use in order to get real-time global illumination. So using things like light propagation volume, the LPV volume, and also tweaking some settings inside of your INI files would actually get you some really good results. I got some really good results back in the day, but I need to make this project as awesome as my previous project that I released a month ago. I think I released a project back in December that everyone really liked. I really got a lot of feedback from people in terms of how awesome the project was. It was really nice, and some of you thought that the project was really amazing. It was one of the best ArcViz you had seen to date inside of Unreal Engine. That was great compliments coming from you guys. And I wanted to create something new, albeit a short project. I'm not going to be diving into architecture per se, but as we can see, design is something that is universal. If you think about it, everything has a design element to it, and this tent is no different. And what I'll be doing in this series is just show you how this was designed, and then some of the details about how this collapsed. So what I'll do right now is just play the sequence so that you can see how this tent actually functions. And what I had done was to rig this up so that the tent will collapse on itself the way it would work in real life. And that's pretty unique, because when you see visualizations out there, sometimes people just design things and don't think about the functionality of it or explain the functionality through visuals, and that's the power of Unreal Engine. You can create something, design something, and then figure out how it's going to function, and then show people the functionality itself. So I'm going to open a level sequence for this, so you can see what the project looks like when it plays through an animation. So I'll just play the animation so you can see what it's gonna look like, and then I'm going to be showing you the process I went through to get here. But the main goal for all of what I'm going to be doing in this video is to actually transform this scene. Right now it looks okay. It looks like a UE4 project, but I want it to be super crisp, super realistic. The animation should be, you know, top notch, and that's what I really want to do in this video series. So it's going to be one long video. I may break it up into multiple videos, but I think it tends to do well when I keep it as a single video. So I think I'm going to do the same thing, because my previous video was a single video and you guys loved it. At least all 30,000 of you said you loved it, so that's really awesome. So what am I going to be doing? What I will do is just I'm going to stop this for now, and this will continue to play as well. You can see it's really nice. If I were to zoom in, once it starts to fold on itself, you'll see what I mean. Like, all of the animations were pre-rigged inside of 3D Studio Max, and I'll show you how things were rigged as well. Even the folding of the cloth, I'm going to show you how I did that, and I brought it into Unreal Engine and just made it look really nice. So I'm going to stop this animation for now, move the timeline back, and I'll close this. I'll close the sequencer so that that's out of the way. But a lot of what I'm going to be doing here is similar to what you would do on an ArcVis project. If you look at the surrounding, to me, this does not look great, but it would pass for a UE4 project. If I jump around, say for instance, you know, some of those views, they look okay, but I really want to change it. And I'm loving some of the textures I have in here. The texture on the capsule of the collapsible tent itself was painted in Substance Painter. The material was applied in there, so I'm going to keep that. But everything else around it, I'm most likely going to obliterate and just get rid of it. So that's what I'm going to be doing, and I will do that really quickly so that you guys can just watch the video and see what I do. And my process is pretty simple. I don't have a complicated process. I have a pretty simple process whereby I just look at the scene, look at what I need, start setting up my shots, and looking at areas where I have opportunities to make this thing, which is the tent, look really nice. And that's the goal of rendering or showcasing your designs, is to make sure that you have really nice materials, really good lighting. Right now the lighting in here is not great. The lighting needs to be better, and that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go through the process where I set this up inside of Unreal Engine. I make some changes inside of 3D Studio Max, and I'll show you what I'm starting to do inside of 3D Studio. This is where I'm at the moment, and I'll just jump out of this camera. So what I'm going to be doing is just creating a different idea for this, because if we go back to Unreal Engine, you can see that what I did was just create some kind of path, and then I put the tent here, and then just it feels very random. It doesn't feel like it's an area you would want to go to, and that's one thing that you should keep in mind whenever you do visualizations. You want to make the viewer feel motivated to go towards the design? What's the inspiration? Why would someone want to go across something? So that's the reason why you'd see, if I go back into Max, I'm starting to separate the hero. So the hero is on an island, meaning this is an island, and then you have some kind of barrier that you're going to have to cross in order to get to the hero itself. And once I set up my shot, you can see the shot here. The way this is going to work is you're going to have a foreground, you have some kind of mid-ground ish, and the hero is going to be really in the mid-ground, but also you have some elements that are going to be in the foreground, maybe just to create framing for the hero itself. And then you have the background, the hills, and then the trees that are going to be on there as well. So all of that, I'm going to go through that inside of Max and then make changes inside Unreal. But the first thing I really want to do now is just to, I'm going to minimize Max. I'm going to come into Unreal Engine and just start to get rid of things. So I really want to clean this scene up a bit. So first thing I'll do is just get rid of the landscape. And then once the landscape's gone, you can kind of see what's left. You have the soil here. So it's looking pretty okay. I'm not gonna lie, it looks okay. I think it's something that's gonna pass for ground material. So I'll get rid of this as well, because I don't really need that. All of this content I'll get rid of. All of the rocks, the bushes that are placed here, I'll get rid of all of those, and some of the big rocks. And a lot of the stuff is just stuff that I originally placed in here. But I'm just gonna get rid of all of this stuff too, because I really don't need it. So let me just see. Yeah, I don't need any of this stuff, so I'll get rid of it. So I'm just gonna go through and clean up the scene, and once I'm done with that, I will continue chatting with you guys. So okay, as promised, let's take a look at what the tent design looks like in terms of the animation of the tent and how it was rigged inside of 3D Studio Max. So I should say rigging is a very strong word, because what I did was just a little bit of parenting. It was not rigging in the traditional sense, but it is rigging in a way, because I'm attaching one component to another, and one component is driving another component. So I guess in a way it is rigging. So what I'm going to do right now is just hide this fabric and this one. So I'll hide it so that we can start to see the inner workings of this tent design. So hide selection. I'll select all of these fabrics as well and hide them. We'll just see. I'll select those and hide, and I'll select this and hide as well. So now that we have that, what I want to do is just zoom in here. In this case, I want you to see the parts that go into the animation. So we have this lever at the top, and then we have this lever at the bottom as well. And those lock into place on the components of the tent. So the structure frame of the tent has some levers that lock into the capsule on this side, and also the structure of the frame that's holding the fabric. There are a lot of missing components in terms of like nuts and screws and bolts that are supposed to be on here, but I'm not showcasing those because you don't necessarily need those in here right now, because the visualization we're doing does not actually include any of those. We're not showing those off So those are not necessary. So right now, if you take a look at the animation that happens here, you'll see that, we have something where, if I scrub the timeline, you can kind of see where it starts to like, move. And then what you notice is that if I come here, all of the dummies that I used are on this side. You can kind of see when I scrub the timeline, you can see the rotation of some of the dummies, right? You can see the dummies are rotating, and those are the attachment points for the animation. They're the things I use to animate some of the components here. So in most cases, anyone working in animation could easily just grab this point and use that point as the animation point, but I didn't want to do that. I wanted to have a component control the animation itself so that I can free the object from I can animate a thing that's controlling the object itself versus animating the object, if that makes any sense. I'm sure you understand what I mean. So once you scrub the timeline, you can kind of see how the animation goes. It locks into place like so, and then this top lever starts to roll down to collapse everything into a very snug space, which is kind of nice because it's a nice way of storing things and making things compact a little bit. And then you see the other ones, and then you see the animation is a kind of progression, really, because if we scrub it back, you see this one goes down, the other one comes in a little bit, and I'll zoom out so you can see what I'm talking about. And then you get this type of animation, and then it goes like so, and like so. And then if I scrub it back, you can kind of see what's happening. And it's happening on the other side as well. So if I zoom out a little more, you can kind of see what's happening here. And everything's kind of like a progression of sorts. So, which is kind of nice. And this is something you can do on your own. You can parent things. I'm not going to go through how all of this is animated. I'm pretty sure you know how to animate. You can grab stuff, and if you don't know how to animate inside a DC software like 3D Studio Max or Blender or something like that, there are lots of tutorials out there that can teach you how to do basic mechanical animation of objects without fully rigging the object. Because what I'm doing here is a very simple rig. It's not complex at all. It's very simple, it's easy to do, and anyone who's starting out in animation can do it. It's basically grabbing, say for instance, I grab this and I just do a parenting, so I parent it to this object and things like that. So once I did that, the next thing I did was to figure out how I was going to animate the fabric. Let's come back here and just start to turn on our fabric. So I'll look for my inner fabric. So if I just open, so they're all here. So I'll turn some of them off actually, so that you can see. So I'll close this, and when I animate, you can kind of see what happens here. You can see how that folds on top of itself, right? And just collapses. So the way I was able to accomplish this was to say first grab this guy, and then I know that my time frame for collapsing that is between 500 and 580, right? So what I did was I grabbed this object, and then I opened a different max file, copied it into, so I'll just do that right now live so that you can see it. I'll open a different Max scene. And when I opened it, there's a nifty script that you can, if you're not using Max, this whole system can still work inside of any of your DCC software. But essentially what I did was just grab this guy and just did a copy. So a copy here is just a nifty script that just saves selected. So it's just doing a save selected. And then I came in here into a different Max scene and I just did paste. And then I'll go look for it. And now you can kind of see, because I have some parenting hierarchies, it's grabbing everything because I also parented it to all of the other components. There's a stack. There's a way I stacked everything in terms of the hierarchy. And if I open the Explorer right now, you can kind of see how things are parented, right? You can see that this object is parented to this object, which is parented to this object, and then which is parented to the fabric, if that makes sense. So there's a hierarchy of parenting for the animation to actually work inside of 3D Studio Max, because the top parent is this guy. And if we slide the animation, which is probably not going to play here because the timeline is shorter than the rest of the animation in the other scene, in the other Max file, I should say. So what I'll do is I'll just open up the time configuration and just push this to 1000. I think that's what I did. Yeah. So if I scrub this, you can kind of see the animation happening in here as well because the keyframes came with it. So you can kind of see where everything stacks. So because I wanted all of this to collapse on each other, I had to parent everything together so that I wouldn't lose this fabric. Because if I didn't parent it, this fabric will fall off at one point and it wouldn't go all the way like so. Because it is parented, that means I will be able to do all of the animation I want without losing something in between. I didn't want to worry about keyframes for everything. So if I didn't do it that way, I would have to keyframe this object as well, and that object, and the other one, and I have to do it each time for this fabric. I would have to keyframe this fabric every single time, which I didn't want to do. I just wanted to do the simulation once and I'll be done. And that's what I want to jump to now. The way I was able to accomplish this was I keyframed the cloth simulation by having it like this. I made this mesh and then I created a box. So I'll just simulate what I did. So I created a box like so, and I'll just move that into place so that you can see what I mean. So I created a box like so, and then I'll move it up. And that box was a collision object for this fabric, and I just basically animated it from position A like so to position B. Just give me one sec. Let me do this. So I'll just say keyframe. I'll just say key there. And then I'll move forward to like so and grab this guy. Just move it like so. And say keyframe. And add another keyframe. Actually, I forgot to do something there. I forgot to turn on my auto key. So I'll just move this back. There we go. There we go. So now we have the auto key set. So I'll just keyframe here, and then move the timeline forward like so, and then just grab that guy and just move it closer. And now we have our auto key. So you can kind of see what's happening now, right? So that's how I created the collision for the fabric. So I just did a simulation for the fabric that way, and I just did that multiple times. I replicated it multiple times. So now if we go back into the other file, you can kind of see how that applies. So if you see that the collision was what made the fabric kind of look like this is folding on itself. So if I keep sliding back and forth, you can kind of see how that is being done. And I just replicated that for all the other ones. So if I turn all the other ones on right now, so I just type in alien fabric and just turn on all the other ones. And then you can see the hierarchy as well of just the parenting, and now things are parented inside of Max. So if we scrub the timeline now, you can see that collapses and this collapses. You know, I get some really odd things here and there, but because things are far away, you just kind of don't notice too much. And then you see that a little bit, and then, you know, I got some janky results, but because I have some fabric covering everything, you kind of don't notice it too much. You know, and that's the thing, right? When you're doing things like this, sometimes you get some results that are not optimal, and you have to kind of figure out either if it's worth it for you to, you know, spend the time fixing it, or is the animation going to be close enough for you to notice. And that's what I did here, because I was running into some trouble. I didn't have too much trouble doing the rest, but those two kind of gave me a little bit of a janky result. So, you know, but that was how I did that. And then on the other ones, so if I scroll it back all the way here, I just scrolled the timeline all the way back. If I turn on the other ones as well, so I'll come back here and just turn on the exterior fabric. So these ones, I did something a little different where I had to hold. You can see the animation starts from 0. I had to first simulate it to drop onto the levers, and then I had to use an attachment method. You can see here that it's attaching itself. So I'm attaching some vertices. During the simulation, I'm attaching some vertices to this lever and then running the simulation. So you can kind of see what happens there. And so the first one, I'll just bring it back so you can see the first one goes down, the second one goes down, the third one, the fourth, and then the fifth kind of collapses. And that's basically it. I didn't do anything too complex. And then to get it into Unreal Engine, I just exported it as an Alembic file. So an Alembic is just, so if I selected this object now and I did file export, and I say export selected, now just wait for it, and I just did a .abc file, which is here, this guy. So I just did an Alembic, right? And I don't know if you can see it, but I just did an Alembic file, and that basically exported all of the vertex point as an animation cache of sort that I then brought into Unreal Engine. Like I said, I don't make most of my processes complicated. I just do what I think is going to look best for the thing that I'm doing, which is an animation, or if it's real time, then I will essentially go into Unreal Engine to do the cloth simulation. But because I knew beforehand that this is going to be a pre-rendered content, meaning it's going to be rendered as an animation and not going to be run as a runtime application, I didn't want to worry about it too much in terms of things being perfect. So that's the amount of information that I think you'll need to really do something like this. If you have more questions, or if things are not understandable to you, or you feel like this deserves an in-depth tutorial or something that you would like to learn how to do, reach out to me and just write something in the comment section and just let me know if you would like to know how to do something like this, because I think animations can be a little more realistic by pre-caching some of your animations from 3D Studio Max, and then when you get into Unreal Engine you can do fancy stuff with the Alembic files. So let me know in the comment section. But yeah, that will do it for the explanation of the animation of the fabric and the mechanical parts of the tent. So enjoy the rest of the video. So I just wanted to jump back in here and just show you some of the process that I'm going through. So in the previous section of the video that you were watching, I was just going through Max and creating the water material and some of the landscape elements that were going to go into the scene. And now I'm in Unreal Engine, just setting up my folders. You're seeing the lighting things, been set up right now. I'm using Ultra Dynamic Sky, which is a really nice plugin to use on your projects to light your scene. So typically that's what I use to light my scenes inside of Unreal Engine. And if that is something that you're interested in, go to the Fab marketplace. It used to be called the Unreal Engine marketplace. Now it's called Fab. So go to Fab and secure yourself a copy of the Ultra Dynamic Sky. It's a really nice tool to use. You can light your scene using other tools as well, things created inside of Unreal Engine, like the sky atmosphere and your directional light and things like that. There's also the sun and sky system as well that you can use, but I think Ultra Dynamic Sky gives me some of the best results that I've seen on the market. And if you're really looking to do some really nice serious lighting inside of Unreal Engine without wasting too much time to kind of finesse things a little bit, I would say Unreal Engine Ultra Dynamic Sky is the best thing you can use. So that's what I'm doing here. I'm just setting up my camera. So what I typically do is I set up my cameras the same way. I start with default and then change to custom or something like that. Or so I basically change the settings a little bit. I typically use an aperture of 1.8, 1.2, depending on what I'm doing. And that's how I've been able to kind of get my clean renders, as well as just setting up my camera the same way every single time. And later on in the video I'll show you some of my settings that I use for the movie render queue as well, so that you can do the same thing on your end and get some of the results that I'm getting as well. So just setting up cameras right now, taking a look at the scene. So also what I typically do is from the beginning, I don't apply materials before I set up my cameras, because I want to get an angle and then start to add materials. You can see the landscape elements, all of the meshes right now. Only the things that I think are very important have materials on them right now. Everything else is kind of bare, and it's having that grid default material that comes with Unreal Engine, which is great. The other thing I did was inside of Max, I unwrapped the water surface. So I did an unwrap on that water surface. I made sure everything's looking the way I want it to look. You can kind of see there is a little bit of stretching in there, but I typically use that for water surfaces, excuse me, because I know there is going to be some distortion in it, and the distortion does play to my advantage a little bit in when it comes to water shaders. And you see also I'll go through a process of setting up the water shader for you as well, so that you know how to do it. I think I've created a video on my channel previously going through the water shader, but you're going to get a chance to see it in here in action. And then obviously you saw what it looked like in the final result in the animation at the beginning of this video. So it's a process that I go through, and obviously I'm looking at the sequencer right now just to see if it's something usable. Typically I set my FPS on the sequencer to 34 FPS, and now just making sure the fabric is still working properly and everything else that was in the scene previously is still working properly. So I'm going through that process and just checking and making sure that I have all the things that I need. And That's typically my process. I don't have anything unique. And that's one of the things that I want to talk about as well, is that there are no, the best thing you can do is to have a less complicated process so that it's easily replicated every time. I know everything's not always going to be the same on every project, but it is best to have a process that's simple. Materials that are really complicated, they tend to not be easily recreated every single time. And also, if you rely on just having really complicated materials, for instance, to make your scene, look beautiful, sometimes it doesn't work. It's going to break at some point, and then you're going to want to try to fix it. Again, these are my opinions, and these are the things that I've used, and they work for me. If you can go through your own process, you can watch this video and just say, I don't think what you're saying is the truth. I don't think what you're saying is going to work for me. Again, knowledge is free. You can decide what you want, and I think that's the process of creation, really. When you're creating something from scratch, you need to experiment a bit and not be afraid to fail. And that's typically what I do. I go through a significant amount of failure rate to get to my final result. Yeah, after time, I'm creating things and they don't pan out the way I want to. Even on this, I had multiple mistakes happen on this project. In the middle of the project, I did some things that I veered away from some of my typical routines on the project, trying to implement new processes, and I learned from it because I made some terrible mistakes. In terms of doing my lighting, I made some terrible mistakes. I didn't want to use ultra dynamic sky, and I ultimately came back to it because using an HDRI sometimes doesn't get me the result that I want. So I ultimately just went back to using ultra dynamic sky. So this is not a plug for ultra dynamic sky, but it's just I've been using it for a very long time. I've been using ultra dynamic sky since it came out in UE4. So I didn't start using ultra dynamic sky in UE5. No, I used it when it was not even anything close to what it is now. It was a blueprint with limited utilities inside of it. It was I think it was just a sky sphere and a bunch of little parameters that you can just slide around to make your scene a little better. And when I got it, I think I got it for something like $4 or something. Now it's about 10x the amount. I haven't checked the price recently, but I think it's significant. The price is significantly more than $4. So it's a testament to what the creator of Ultra Dynamic Sky has done. The person who created it has done a really awesome job, and I think if you're looking for a tool to help you light your scene, that's one of the best tools out there right now. So I would say just watch the video, and I will see you in the next sections of the video, not the previous. I'll see you in the next section of the video, and if there's anything worth pointing out, you see me jump back in with some commentary or things like that. And if not, you just enjoy the video, keep watching the process. And if you have a question, again, like I said before, just put it in the chat, not the chat, in the comment section. Put it in the comment section, and I'll be able to answer your question. If it's something really complicated, then I'll provide you my email so I can DM you to make sure that your questions are answered. So enjoy the video, and I will be back. So after taking a look at the scene for a little bit, I decided I needed a bridge to go across the scene to the other side of the so-called island where the hero, meaning the tent, is located. So the bridge is going to be in the midground slash foreground a little bit. So what I'm just doing in here right now is just modeling and going through the process that anyone who does 3D would go through to model uh, an item or a mesh or a thing that you want to put into your scene. So I'm just modeling the bridge, and I go through this process a lot where I start out a scene with an idea, and then during the development of the scene I figure out, okay, I need something else here, something's missing. And then I go through the manual process of modeling things myself. Sometimes I can get some assets, but occasionally I shouldn't say occasionally. I think a lot of my projects I use unique items that I model myself. And again, whatever process is faster for you, if it's purchasing something on the marketplace, if it's fab, if it's somewhere else, that's going to make things go faster. I do the same thing as well, but sometimes when you have a design intent in mind that's going to work better for your scene, it's better for you to model it. And that's one of the skills you should have as well, to be able to model things. I know these days people talk about AI a lot, and AI could make your projects faster. You can find processes that would be faster by utilizing some sort of AI, but in the final outcome, you should own what you're creating. And the process of creation is not very straightforward. If it was that, then no one would be able to make anything unique. So the thing that I always stress to people when I talk to them is just understand what you want, understand the process of creation, and just go for it. Sometimes it's going to be a little slower, sometimes it's going to be faster, but ultimately you're going to learn something by doing. You cannot absorb knowledge by just watching and by just reading. No, you have to put it into action. You have to do something. You have to take an action to model the thing, to texture the thing, or to do the action that you've been reading about or watching videos about. And that's how I've been able to improve my processes, improve my skill sets over the years. And I am still going through a learning process of new tools and new things that I want to implement in some of the work that I do. So if you're looking to learn something new and looking to improve your skill sets, it's always a good idea to look for a course or look for something that's going to help you improve your process. And I've been meaning to release my course, but one of the things I'm starting to notice is that people say they want a course, but sometimes they don't necessarily want it as bad as they think they want it. Because when you send out the information, hey, register for a course, sometimes people for some reason are unable to afford it. But I also understand that having free things in a way doesn't necessarily motivate you to learn. So at least for me, most of my skills that I've learned over the years are paid courses and things that I've invested either money or time. And by investing your time, you have to be intentional about it. You have to make sure that this is something you want to do, and put a date on the calendar and stick to it in terms of doing the action, learning the thing. And again, learning as a process. If you want to learn, you have to do the action, and in doing the action you will fail along the way, but failure is part of the process as well. So enough rant about that. But what I am trying to say here is I model all of my content, mostly everything. Some things I buy, And here what I'm doing is I'm making sure the bridge that I'm modeling right now is going to bridge the water that we've created, the water, the river flowing around the island where the tent is. The bridge is going to go across, and then I'm modeling the side of the wood slats, and then the wood slats are going to go on top. And once I'm done with that, I'm going to UV it. So I UV unwrap every single plank that's in there. So I had lots and lots of planks here, and everyone was UV'd. So I unwrapped everything and UV'd it myself, and I applied the material on it. So that's gonna do it for this section. I've been talking for way too long, but if this is something you're interested in and you want to learn more about my process, I'm starting to think that, you know, having a course where people just kind of download the video and watch is not the best, because people learn in communities. If you're interested in learning in a community of people and having like a group session, I think that would be best. So if you're watching this part of the video and listening to this part of the video and you think that's something you'd be interested in, I'd love to know. Put it down in the comment section and let me know, because I think this skill is something that a lot of people will benefit from, you included. You listening to this video right now, you're most likely going to benefit from it, because one of the reasons we're watching the video is because you want to learn. So let me know in the comment section. Okay, I will see you in the next section when I add more audio track to the video you're watching. But in the meantime, enjoy the rest of the video. Okay, now that the scene's ready, I can kind of show you all around. I can show you around the scene a little bit. So the rendering, I rendered from a bunch of camera angles, this being one of them, and then this one slightly forward a little bit, kind of like so, and then there was another one that I rendered from somewhere around this area. This is where I rendered from. So the shot was taken from somewhere around here. I had some camera views all set up. And what I want to do now is just show you exactly what my render settings were. So if I were to, say for instance, just go over to my render presets, and so I created 2 render presets, one for 2K and one for 4K. The 4K version is what I used as my rendering, and I don't have a lot of, you know, really complicated settings. I typically just, you know, use EXRs. I use Path Tracer as my rendering engine of choice, my type of rendering, I should say. So there is deferred. So if you come down to settings, you can kind of see there's rendering, under rendering there is deferred, and then there's Path Tracer. So I'm using Path Tracer right now. And then in my anti-aliasing, you can kind of see the sample count that I'm using. The spatial sample count, I use 128. And then the temporal sample count, I stick with 8 temporal sample counts just for my motion blur. Really, I typically don't go beyond 8 for the temporal sample count. And 128, I try to stick to 128 for the spatial sample count. If you, again, this is purely my opinion, not the gospel for rendering inside Unreal Engine. If you want to use something different, you can go ahead. I've seen many videos online saying, God, you shouldn't use this many spatial sample count, and you shouldn't use this many temporal sample count. Again, do what works for you. This is what works for me, and you can take anybody's advice. Like I said previously in this video, the knowledge is free. You can do whatever you want with it, but this is what works for me, and I've been using it for a while now, and it keeps working for me. So there's that. And then I do a render warm-up count, and this is just for simulations like, you know, leaves falling and things like that. So I do a warm-up, engine warm-up, and then I do a render warm-up as well. So I just keep it at 128, 120, sorry, 120 and 120. And then there's the console variable. Again, all of my console variables that I use, purely a thing that I've been using and it works for me. Again, you'll find videos online, and I'm not trying to throw shade to, you know, people online who tell you about, you know, how to set up your renders in Unreal Engine. This is what works for me. You can take this information, you can take a look at it and do what you want with it. So I typically use the r.shadow.virtual resolution.lod bias local. I typically use that. I use the motion r.motion blur, r.motion blur separable. I put 1, that's the value. And screen percentage, I always use 150. I've gone up to 200 before. It does crash my GPU whenever I go up to 200 and I'm rendering at 4K. It does crash my GPU, so I typically stick to 150. I don't go beyond that. If I see a lot of crashing happening at 150, I may go down to 100, but I typically just stay at 150. The bloom quality, I keep that at 5. Tone mapper quality at 5. The r.shadow.denoiser, man, I can't talk. r.shadow.denoiser, I typically keep that at 0. That's just to prevent any kind of shadow noise in my renderings. And then motion blur quality, of course, I keep that as a value of 4. Reflection, r.reflections.denoiser 0. Diffuse, the r.diffuse indirect.denoiser, I keep that at 0 as well. So any denoiser for some of the shadows, the reflection, the diffuse indirect, and the ambient occlusion, I keep that at 0. And then path tracer. So this is where you can decide to do what you think is going to be the right thing to do. If you turn this to 0, then you have no denoising for your path tracing. If you turn it up to 1, then it is going to be denoised. I've seen videos talking about not denoising your renders. Great. If you don't want to denoise your renders, I believe if you don't denoise your renders, you get a lot of detail back, but you're going to get some noise as well inside of your renders. And then you can clean that up in DaVinci Resolve. I think DaVinci Resolve does a very good job of cleaning up your renders, but I typically turn it on for my renders, so there is that. And then r.raytracing.geometry.instantstaticmeshes.calling. This one is quite important if you have a very large landscape and you don't want the shadow to be called. Again, I'll link the video that I did in the past where you would actually see something that I did around this console variable. I'll link the video in there so that you can actually watch that video. That video was very compelling. It tells you how to use this. This is really powerful. This console variable is really powerful when it comes to rendering really large landscape and you are missing shadows. You can use this value to kind of bring back those shadows. And then r.raytracing.reflections.shadows, I typically set that at 2. And then a tone mapper, the sharpening of the tone mapper, I set that at 1. And that's pretty much what I do. The other thing is just to figure out, the output resolution and then location where I'm saving my files and things like that. I don't touch anything else because, once I set up the number of frames I'm going to be rendering. Typically, if I need to do an override and I want to specify the frames, I can kind of, specify the start and the end. So I'll use the use custom playback range. So I'll just tick this box and then type in the numbers here from the start frame and then the end frame and things like that. But again, it's very simple. I'm not doing anything complicated. I start with EXR. I typically use EXRs. And my EXR, I typically just set it to DWAA. And that's what I use. I don't use anything else. And then path tracer, I just leave it at default. I've tried using reference motion blur. I typically remove it, but I tried it once. The result was okay. I don't typically use it, so I just leave this at default, and then everything else I just adjust a little bit, and that's about it. So the other thing I want to talk about right now is your camera settings. Because of the trees I have in my scene, you can kind of see that my trees move, and if you want to make sure that that's in your camera and rendering properly, you typically wouldn't have to do this, but I think there was a change inside of Unreal Engine recently and it kind of broke things for me a little bit, and it took me a while to figure it out because I was rendering and I was running into some really weird results where the frame rates that I was rendering at wasn't matching the results that I wanted. So what I had to do is I had to come into my camera settings, and then I had to just type in here motion blur. So under motion blur, I had to change my target FPS to the FPS that I have in my sequencer. So say for instance, I'll just open one of the sequences in here. So if I come to cinematics and sequences, now I'll just open one of them up so you can see what I mean. So in my sequencer, I have 24 FPS. So it's the default for the target FPS is usually 30. So I changed it to 24. And then this one I just left at default. And then the motion blur amount is typically at 0.5. I had to change this to 1 for it to render properly the way that I wanted it to. And if you don't do that, again, investigate this in your scene. Your scene may be fine with all of the defaults based on how you're rendering your scene, the types of things you have in your scene, especially if you have static things in your scene and things aren't moving as much. I think you'll be fine. You don't have to change anything really. But if you're like me, that your renderings are really crisp and your foliage is very important to you, and the movement of the foliage is important to you. If the movement of the leaves, the movements of the trees, the grass and things like that are important to you, you have to come in here and mess with this a little bit. So mess with the motion blur amount, mess with the target FPS, and this per object size, I typically don't use it. I haven't used it in the past, but I've heard things about it affecting your renderings. It does make your renders a little better. It's something I'm going to investigate, and in my future videos I may talk about it more. And also, shameless plug, I have a course that I am working on as well, and I've been working on it for a while now and trying to make sure that people can get the best out of it. One thing that I am noticing is the fact that people aren't able to afford it. So what I'm planning on doing is finding out if people can do it like a Zoom call instead. So for instance, you register for it, then you do it on Zoom and figure out if that's better. And if you do it as a group, it's going to be cheaper, but it's based on your response. So if this is something that you're really interested in, because I think a lot of people don't have the skill of rendering the way I do, because you can go on the internet and for right now you won't find any Unreal Engine that's kind of close to the result that I get. So if you're wanting to learn this, put it in the comment section or reach out to me and let me know so that I can start to set this up as a Zoom call, and I can make it affordable depending on the amount of people who are interested. If people are not interested, I'll keep doing my thing and just posting online, posting the videos for people to enjoy, and posting videos like this, a little breakdown so that people can enjoy it. But if you want the knowledge, you reach out, because this is personal for you. Because don't look at everybody else. Don't think about what everybody else is saying and trying to let you know that, there's something cheaper that you can get. No, the knowledge is for you. It's going to benefit you. I can tell you, in my career, the reason why I've gotten so far in my career is because I have dedicated some time into learning this tool, learning how to get the best results out of Unreal Engine. And that came by just learning from people, signing up for courses, and then doing a deep dive into Unreal Engine, sitting there day and night trying to solve problems inside Unreal Engine. And I discovered a lot of things, and I would love to share that knowledge, but it is very difficult to share knowledge with people if it's just free, because you're not going to value it. Again, take this with a grain of salt. If you're not invested in something, it is very difficult for you to value it. So if you value knowledge and you value being able to actually learn this skill, I would say, think about it and message me. Put it in the comment section, and I'll put together a course or a way for us to meet online, and then we can kind of tackle your projects. You can come in, we'll talk about a project, we'll build a project for you from start to finish, and we can make it affordable. So let me know. So that's all for this video, and you can see what this scene looks like now. It's a really nice scene, and for starters, there's a base file already attached to this video. There's a comment in the comment section. The top comment that's pinned has a base file for this scene, and it has the tent in it, and the design is a little different, but you can use this video as inspiration to kind of modify that file. So that will do it for this video. Thank you so much for watching it, and I hope you come back for my next video, because it's going to be even bigger than this one. The project we're going to be tackling is going to be more detailed, and the animation would be really, really kick-ass. So thank you for watching, and I will see you on the next one.
You say you don't know where you go, so come. The wind in your hair, birds keep flying away.